At the end of the year, no one is going to say that Stephen was so great at returning his emails within 5 minutes. If you didn't make your numbers, nobody gives it. Coaching is the number one activity that sales managers can do to drive performance. For some reason, coaching is always the first thing to drop off and be pushed aside. Coaching the deal happens, but to me that's performance management. It's not coaching on how to get the sale. You know, we're in the middle of hockey playoffs, and as a Canadian, this is like the goal, and it's nice outside, so it's like golden time. But first of all, the manager doesn't come on and shoot the puck to score the goals. In sales, because they were such a good rep, they know what they're doing, but that's not their job. And I'm going to rescue this deal. And what you're saying is the rep's not good enough to do it, so I need to jump in because I'm so busy, but I'm going to jump in anyways because I can pat myself on the back. As opposed to Tony is doing so well because I've coached him. The missing piece that I have found, it's not about motivation, it's really about...
Okay team, this week we are going over to Toronto in Canada, and we are talking to a lovely fella by the name of Stephen Rosen. If you're a sales manager and you're on LinkedIn, this guy's been pretty difficult to ignore. He's just written a brilliant book called Focused, and I've read it from cover to cover. I've quoted it absolutely everyone. He's also had a forward by Mike Weinberg, who was a best-selling author of a book called Sales Management Simplified, which we also recommend you go and buy straight away. And Stephen very graciously agreed to come on the podcast and talk about his book, which I think is absolutely superb. Stephen, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, and I told my friends I'm going to be on a podcast from New Zealand, and everyone's excited. I don't know why, but everyone's excited. It's cool, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got amazing experience. You come from a pharmaceutical background. The book's obviously been written from your experience of those 25 years, and this book is brilliant, Stephen. I'm going to make you blush. I'm going to make you, sort of just feel terrible and awkward. But what a book!
Here's what's going to happen. I won't be able to get my head out the door. The door's big, but don't make my head too big. It took me 23 years of being a consultant to get the epiphany to write this book.
Yeah. Now, I want to get straight into it. We will obviously put all your wonderful resources in the show notes. What do you call it? The subtitle of the book is When Pressure Rises, Execution Holds or Drifts. And you talk about leadership discipline that holds under pressure. We're obviously talking about sales leadership here. When you've got three pillars, and we're going to get into all those things, but you've got focus, you've got leadership, and you've got performance culture. Which one do you think is the first to break when the pressure really comes on in your experience? Which one starts to wilt or drift?
I mean, in many cases, leadership, and the item that breaks the most is the one that managers hate to do, which is coaching. Coaching fades when as I talk about, when the boss calls the sales manager, and even though they may have a coaching session planned or another rep calls, for some reason, coaching is always the first thing to drop off and be pushed aside. Now, you know what the irony is here. The irony is that coaching is the number one activity that sales managers can do to drive performance. I've been talking about for 20 years and training managers on how to coach, coaching managers on how to coach. But I will talk about the challenges there. But the reality is, it's like sales reps. If the first thing that breaks is you don't go out and sell, you got a problem.
Yeah, 100%.
And managers, when if they don't block their time, if they don't hold onto their coaching time because they don't see it as being valuable, or the organization doesn't see it as being valuable, because I was a sales manager once upon a time, and you get pulled in 200 different directions. And I've coached managers where, Stephen, I don't have time to coach. I've just trained you on coaching. What do you mean you don't have time to coach? Well, I've got this, I've got that. I talk about busy work in the book. And busy work is not leadership. Coaching is leadership. So I've told many customers, and this goes way back, our clients, that At the end of the year, no one is going to say that Stephen was so great at returning his emails within 5 minutes. If you didn't make your numbers, nobody gives an SH.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can be good at that, and we all get bogged down with emails and Slack and, voice messages, text messages. What drives sales as a sales leader is coaching.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well said. You're very clear on that. I mean, your book, it's so straightforward and pragmatic. It's very clear. And, you write about the reality of sales managers being buried. They've got so much on their plate. They're pulled in all these different directions and there's no time left for leading. And I think most authors or people that talk to people about sales management and best practice and sales leadership would say it's a time management issue. But you went somewhere different with that in the book. So what's your view on that?
It's not a time management issue. It's a priority issue. The fact is we all have the same amount of time. And I remember there was, as I said, my epiphany came after 23 years, and I was working with a group out of Montreal, group of sales managers, and we did 2 days of training, and then we had 6 months of coaching planned. And after the training, the senior director of sales got up and said, because he sat through the whole process, and he said, whatever we've learned over the last 2 days, we are going to implement. And, so we talked to the managers after, and they said, oh, we love this stuff, but we just don't have time. We have too much, I call it, minutia, but there's a French word that describes it. It's called caca. Too much caca to deal with, or shit.
Does that translate as crap in Quebec?
Yes, it does. Yes, it could translate to a few things, but I love that word, and it always gets a rise out of people. And what we did is we said, okay, let's look at the stuff that's not generating revenue, that you're busy doing and that you feel that you have to do. And let's get rid of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, as I said, if the numbers are not made, they point to the sales reps or the managers. So time is an excuse. Time gets beaten up. Time is everyone, it's time. It's time. It's not time. It's what are your priorities? What are your 3 things? And I talk about that in chapter 5. The 3 things that are critical. And I've actually used that. I was very lucky in my career that with one company I was promoted 7 times over 7 years, from a sales rep to running 3 divisions. Okay, and I'm not saying this to brag. It's a long time ago. But the point was I used that technique because every time I got promoted, nobody trains you. They figure out Rosen can figure it out. And what I figured out and what I've shared with clients since I've been coaching is figure out the 3 things you need to do to be successful, or your team needs to be successful, and do those extremely well. And I talk about the 3 things, and those should be things that don't break under pressure. Yeah, I can tell you what I think they should be, but we let companies determine that so they have ownership to those 3 things.
What would be when you say these things, there's so many questions I want to ask around there. I know in the book that you've given 3 examples, and you very politely say it's up for the company to decide, or the manager and the leader to decide what those 3 things are. And I think also there's a difference between a manager and a leader, and we'll get into that, and then we'll get into the challenges of coaching. But in the book, on page 49, because I've underlined it and read it several times. Yeah, well, no, hopefully we've got the right one here. You said, your 3 things, as a suggestion, we inspect pipeline quality every Monday. Coaching conversations are not cancelled, and deals without a next defined step are not forecast. Now, that's just your example, but in your world, like in your 25 years as pharmaceutical and this rapid promotion, what were your 3 things? Were they similar or were they different?
It's interesting. When I was VP of sales for one of the companies, I can remember 2 of them. Third one will come. I remember the 3rd one now. So what was for my team was number 1 was what's the right number? It was 120 days in the field coaching.
Wow.
Every year, 10 days a month, and I tracked that, and I sent it up to senior leadership every month. How the managers were doing.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So that was 1.
In pharma, number 2, in pharma, that you get money to invest in continuing health education, to convert doctors. The first year I was with this company, it came the end of the year, and some of my reps and managers did not invest all their money. And I said, that will never happen again. So we created a formula called 30, 40, 30, which was they had to build plans and execute to invest 30% of their money first quarter, 40% second quarter, 30% third quarter. And if we're ahead of the game, we would go back and ask for more money.
Awesome.
And to be honest, we went from $70 million to $221 million in sales over 3 years with no new products, all organic growth.
Amazing, which is unusual for pharmaceutical, right?
Yes, it is, because it's a slow-moving business, and we did extremely well.
The pipeline and R&D, just some of these products take forever to come off patent. Yeah, exactly. And so, what was your third one? So we talked about the 100 company.
I'm trying to remember what the third one is. I think it was we had various designations for doctors. As you may or may not know, there's a company that tracks what doctors prescribe.
Right.
And pharmaceutical companies pay millions of dollars for that data.
I can imagine.
And we were small, so we competed with Pfizer in cardiovascular. So I think they had 6 reps to 1 of ours going to the same offices. So we had to be much better, more targeted and focused. And so we created ABC. It was different lingo, but I had the reps create it. And we focused on the A's and the B's, and there was a certain percentage of time that had to be focused on the large accounts.
Yeah.
So it was very much targeting. If you boil it down, it was targeting where the business is.
Yeah.
And we had some sophisticated approaches. I was big into that in my younger days of using data. I don't know if I was ahead of my time, but IMS, I think they're international company, would always say, you guys do a really good job with that. So those are our 3 things. We publish them every month. We track them. And to me, that was the key focus. And that worked. So if I boil it down, because I did a lot of the benefit for what I wrote applies to more SaaS-based companies.
Yeah.
And number 1 is coaching. SaaS-based companies do not coach. And people will probably shoot me for saying that.
Because the product sells itself. Because the product sells itself, does it?
No, because the managers, if I told you I might be a little controversial, the managers don't know how to coach.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault.
No.
It's not their fault because they were promoted.
Yep.
SaaS-based business has grown so quickly. There's no time for training and development, especially at the leadership level. So coaching doesn't happen. Coaching the deal happens, but to me, that's performance management. It's not coaching on how to get the sale. And there's a distinction there in my mind. Number 2 is performance management, which my friend Mike Weinberg has a lock on that one. We call it different things, but basically it's monthly accountability meetings is what he calls it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you sit down once a month and you review the results, the activities, and I'm very much focused on focusing forward. I talked about that in the book, that you can't change what happened in the past. So it's really about what is your plan? And sometimes my poor kids, what's your plan? And I always ask that question because with clients as well, what's your plan? Because you can't affect what happened yesterday. You can only affect what's going forward. And to me, those are what's really critical. And I think that applies across industry. Those three areas.
Yeah. So you talked about coaching as number 1, performance as number 2, performance management, which your good friend Mike Weinberg has a good lock on. What's the third one?
Okay, you got me there. You're listening. You're great. It's about execution.
Good.
Okay, it's about executing, doing what you said you're going to do.
Yeah, pretty simple stuff.
And again, if you try, it's very top level, but you can't. Companies, the biggest problem that companies face, I believe, is they try to do too much.
Yeah.
And they become the old adage, a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
And I really believe in mastery. So when you're coaching someone, don't coach them on 4 skills or 8 skills or a different skill every time. I call that flavor of the day coaching. Coach them on 1 or 2 skills over the course of 6 months so they can master that skill. So same as when you're picking what you're going to execute on. If you try to do too much, you don't do anything well. I really believe that. And less is more.
I couldn't agree more with you. A violent agreement with you. I mean, when you look at high performance sports teams, a basketball player doesn't try to be the best violinist or the best tennis player or the best golf player. They're trying to be the best defense, the best rebounder, the best attack, whatever it happens to be. And, in the high performance world, because we're very lucky we get some really good sports psychologists on all over the world. And, that would not be a conversation in a high performance sports environment. The fact that the managers don't have time to coach, like, what, do you not want to win games? So it's the same parallel, isn't it? And,
100%.
It's so common sense, but, that phrase, common sense isn't that common. But,
people told me that, Stephen, the stuff you're teaching is not rocket science. And I say, you're right. I'm not a rocket scientist. But if you do the basics very well, as I said, there's been epiphanies here, and I'll talk about the epiphany because I think it's important. But you got it. Less is more. Don't try to do too much because you're not going to be successful at all.
I agree. Mastering one thing is much better than trying to fail at lots of things and doing a lot of things average and mediocre. Let's talk about the epiphany, Stephen. I don't want to miss that. Tell me.
So the reason why I wrote the book, and I come from a sales leadership background, although I was a VP of marketing and sales at one point, but my true love is sales and sales leadership. And so for the last, 23 years, I came out of industry and I said, I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm going to work for myself. I never want to go back. And so I started training, and then I started training managers. And I built my own coaching model 20 odd years ago. Interestingly enough, it was called focused sales coaching. I still teach it. I teach it at the university, and it's in my book. I forget what chapter. I think it's 9 that I talk about focused coaching, because I was always about focus. And so what I used to do is I would train. And then I realized that, 6 months later, the company had forgotten everything I taught them.
Sounds familiar.
I went to one of my buddies who we implemented a program. I said, how's it going with X, Y, and Z? And he says, what are you talking about? He forgot that he even implemented it. This is the head of sales. So then I said, okay, you know what? The only way I'm going to make my business tick, because for me, it's important that clients are successful. If they're successful, it means they've implemented and they've gotten ROI on what you've worked with them on. So I said, I do not do training without a coaching engagement. Agreed. So I started coaching sales teams, sales leadership teams on focused coaching, on performance management, on leadership, and we do it for 3 or 6 months post-training.
Brilliant.
And that worked extremely well. But eventually it would die. And as I mentioned earlier, when I did one group and the head of sales got up and said, we're going to implement what Stephen did, what he's trained us on. And we built the program that senior leadership was going to enforce it. That was the epiphany. And I talk about enforcement a lot in the book. And not to say there's another book called Enforced. There might be. I tease my wife, there's a trilogy coming. It's taken me a while to get here. I'm in my 60s, but I think I have room for 2 more books. Anyway, but the bottom line is the missing piece that I have found, and I talk about this in the book, and I mentioned that it's not a motivational book. If you want to be motivated, don't read my book, because as Mike Weinberg said, he felt like he got punched in the stomach or the head or whatever he got punched in.
The first couple of pages, he said, yeah.
So I'm here to say, look, you guys are not bad. The system is bad, right? And the reality is, I forgot where I was going here, but it's not about motivation. It's really about having enforcement in place. So as much as I know you work with rural managers, rural salespeople, so maybe they're smaller based companies that there's people out there all over, and the individual manager can definitely benefit from the book.
Yeah, exactly.
The hidden audience is your CRO and your second line leadership, who I blame for the problems that are happening because they're the ones who control the system.
Yeah.
And I give examples where, hey, you know what, the I don't know what they call them, regional VPs or the
Yes.
VP calls the manager and says, "What's happening with this deal? I need to know by today."
Panic.
And panic. That's the pressure.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to know by today. That's the reality.
Yeah. So they cancel they cancel the coaching commitment. And what you're saying there, Stephen, is you talk about enforcement, and we're going to get to that because that's a word that's got some jagged edges, and we're getting into the connotations.
Yes, it does.
There's so much we want to unpack here. But the thing is, you talk about the difference between motivation and enforcement, which we've just spoken about. But for me, enforcement is actually about commitment because motivation wanes. It's like willpower. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
It deteriorates. But a commitment is enforcing a commitment or a standard or an agreement. And we will get into that. But like, I don't want to take you off your track because there's so much I want to say here. But like when you were talking about focused sales coaching that you've been training as a model and lecturing on for the last 25 years, on chapter 8, page 88, you see, because
it's chapter 8. Okay, I thought it was 9.
It was all good. Not chapter. It's fine. I'm here to help. You have a brilliant page on page 88 that says why most coaching fails, and most coaching fails for predictable reasons. Managers coach without focus, without accountability. They rotate skills too quickly, which is why you talked about mastery there. And then the ones I really highlighted here, sir, were they turn coaching into deal inspection, which is glorified pipeline review, or they step in as super rep. Now, tell me about that.
All the common mistakes. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was saying that, and you're saying none of this comes from ill intent. They don't mean to.
No. Well, here's the challenge. I mean, managers are smart people. They've been promoted for a reason, right? But deal inspection, to me, is a whole separate thing. You need to do deal inspection. But when it gets confused with coaching, coaching doesn't happen. And to me, my definition of coaching is skill improvement, competency improvement. So you do both. But don't mix the two up. Because what suffers, because you want to teach the skills to make the sale.
Correct.
Right? Or you want to coach the skills. You want to coach them and help them get better. Because then their deals will be better and they'll be able to close them. Maybe they do better, ask better questions up front, better discovery. That's a skill.
Yeah.
That's not a deal thing, right? So coaching is skill based. And I think there's a lot of companies that when I ask them, are your managers coaching? And the answer is, yes, they're coaching the deal. And not to say I go a little bit nutso with that because I'm not, but it's like, it's like a trigger point for me. Okay, that's good, but that's not coaching. And here's the problem with SaaS-based companies. I was talking about this before and I got sidetracked. But because they've grown so quickly, right? Top reps have been promoted to managers. Top managers have been promoted to VPs. No one has been grounded in coaching. It's all about the deal. Yeah. And then you hit a certain point. I don't know if it's $1 billion in the US or 500 million that you can't scale anymore. You're hitting that scaling wall because you're not doing the right things. And your people are not trained to do the right things. So focused, as I said, it is great for the rural manager who wants to improve what they do daily. There's some really good tips for them, but there's also for the the middle level. And I think I have a diagram in there that shows the middle level being what breaks everything because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what their job is. And their job is to hold managers to what is critical, to their 3 things. And the deal is not one of my 3 things. The deal is an outcome of leadership.
Exactly. I was just about to take the word right out of your mouth there, Mr. Rosen. Like, it's the outcome because the coaching's the input. Now, I was speaking to your, a good peer and colleague of yours, Mark Cox, on the last podcast.
Mark's a Torontonian.
Yeah, and exactly. We love Canadians because they're so damn like Kiwis, right? So
we love the Kiwis.
Down to earth, except you're just a lot bloody bigger than us. And thoroughly nice people. And we talked about leading and lagging indicators, But the thing is, what you've said there, and I really want to emphasize this for the listeners because this is really important for managers listening to this. What happens is they default to coaching the deal. This is what Stephen's just told you. You're coaching the deal. You're not coaching for skill. And what Stephen's defined the difference between coaching and performance management, they are not the same thing. And Stephen said here, and I just want to make sure that people picked it up. You ask executive or VP or C-suite, are your managers coaching? They say, yeah, we're coaching. But they're not. They're coaching the deal, aren't they, Stephen?
That is what I've learned. That's one of the epiphanies because pharma, to be honest with you, I come from pharma, and pharma is a much more mature industry, right?
And sorry, and I have to interrupt just for the listeners. When you say pharma, you mean PH, pharmaceuticals for sure.
Yes.
Because we say pharma as in pharma FA. So, and that's not the FA as in the bad word. But yeah.
Oh, okay. So the drug business is more mature than the technology business.
Yes.
And, I was grounded as a manager. I was out in the field coaching probably close to half my time. Yeah. There were no deals in that, at least in my business. It was about visiting customers, helping the reps get better. Technology, as I said, has grown so quickly that the foundation has not been put in place to scale. And to me, the foundation is leadership. My watch is talking to me. It happens every now and then. The foundation is leadership, and leadership is not busyness, right? Yeah. It's not responding to emails. It's your three things, and holding that when the pressure comes. And we know we're coming, we're not far from the end from June, and the end of June, the pressure hits.
Yeah, same for in Australia is our end of financial year's 30 June. Now tell me, Stephen, there's so much we want to get through here. You spent 120 days in the field. That was one of your three things. And you used to report that to management. Now, when you were in the field, what are the tips and techniques or learnings or even mistakes that you made when you were observing reps in the field and you were coaching them in the field? Can we go there?
100%. I mean, I could write a book just on that, but the number one biggest mistake is telling and not asking. To me, that's the first paradigm shift. I know it sounds simple, but it's so hard to do, right? And when I coach people, I say, I'm telling you right now, I should be asking you, right? Because we all default to telling, right? And, I ask managers, what's the right ratio of asking versus telling? And I use a very simple formula. It's how many ears do you have and how many mouths do you have?
Love it.
The 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love that. It's such a simple rule. What is the consequence and impact when you go into telling mode versus asking mode? I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you, sir.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody wants to be told what to do.
Correct.
It's like, my wife says, Stephen, take out the garbage. Don't tell me what to do.
It's called reactions. It's called reactions theory. That's the posh term.
Right. We have, okay. So that's the third. For me, it's resistance. It goes in one ear and out the other, right? Because unless you build the plan, and I have a coaching model that starts with asking versus telling. That's the core of coaching. And then part of what I believe, I can't remember if I'm sure it's in the book, is the first step is you want reps to self-evaluate. And if you tell them, you did this great and you could be better on this, that's, so here's the ratio on that one. Okay. A good manager, if they're out 10 days out of 20, a great manager for out 10 days out of 20. And let's say they have 8 reps or 10 reps. That means they're out with the reps 1 day per month per rep.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes is, what do they do the other 19 days that you're not there? You want them to be self-coaches and ask the same questions that Stephen or your coach would ask. And so I talk about sometimes, I talk about having Alzheimer's or repeating yourself. Yeah. But that's what coaching is. Ask the same questions. How did it go? What did you do well? What can you improve? But if you ask the same questions, you then condition your sales rep for them to hopefully, when you're not with them, that they're asking themselves the same questions. So they're self-coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I always say, Stephen, repetition is the mother of all learning.
It is 100. And again, it's only on a few things.
Correct.
So the next mistake, you asked me, what was it mistakes that you asked me about coaching? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's one of the big ones. I think you need to work on your closing skills.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Ask the rep what they're committed to working on. It's about them making a commitment to improve. It's like, for example, you mentioned basketball. Canada invented basketball. Just saying. Let's say that they want to work better at their three-point shots or whatever they call it. And you say, no, you got to work on your dribbling. They're not committed to working on dribbling. So as long as it's within the realm of this will positively impact their performance, let the rep determine what the coaching engagement is going to be on. I don't tell my clients that, hey, you got to work on X, Y, and Z. I ask them, what are the 2 or 3 things that you want to work on when you work with me? So that's a mistake that we make. We input our own thoughts on what needs to be worked on as opposed to letting the individual decide. There's some tricks to help the individual because some people see that everything they do is great. Some people think everything they do is rotten. So it's really about helping them channel as to what they're committed to working on. And then there's two more mistakes. What I really believe in, I touched upon it earlier, that anything you do without a plan doesn't happen.
I agree.
So my third sort of step is having the rep, not the manager, having the rep develop the coaching plan. So, for example, just so there's clarity here, let's say the rep's going to work on discovery. I assume that's a common step in most selling models. Okay, you're going to work on discovery. What are you going to do? Well, number 1, I'm going to develop 10 questions that I'm going to test and work with. 2, I'm going to use them on every call and see what works best. 3, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. It doesn't have to be complicated. But unless the rep writes the plan, not the manager, it's less likely to be successful.
Yeah, I agree.
And John, what do you think the 4th step is?
The first step on the plan?
The last step.
Oof. Well, they've got their plan. You've asked them to make a commit. You've asked them to write their coaching plan. I would imagine then you probably want to close the loop. I'm going to make an educated guess here.
Oh my God, that's exactly the word that I use.
Well, there you go.
Closing the loop, closing the accountability loop.
Because we've actually got to and it goes round and round and round like any loop does.
Yes,
right?
It does. So I don't know, there's lots of coaching models out there. I'm not here to say that mine's the best, but I think it works if it's followed. So if you're not doing those 4 steps, plus asking effective questions, you're probably not as effective as you could be as a coach.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to summarize this because there's some real gold here. What Stephen's saying, guys, is that there's an asking to telling ratio, and Stephen's thumbnail or yardstick is basically your ears to your mouth, so 2 to 1. And what Stephen's doing here in his book and what he's teaching you here is quite contradictory or quite counterintuitive, or probably sometimes people might say controversial, because some managers might go, Stephen, yeah, but I have to do the coaching plan for my coachee, for my rep, because I'm the manager and I know what's right for them. But the thing is, then they don't get buy-in. And then I think the most important thing you just said in this last section is if you've got a team of 10 and you're 10 days out of 20, we're out in the field, the maths works that you can only spend 1 day a month with each of your reps. That was the math. And so what happens is then, if you can't instill the ability to self-coach, what are they doing for those other 19 working days of the month? And I think that's a very important point, because when you tell them they learn nothing, there's no surfacing of comprehension or lock-in of understanding, and then you create a dependency and a bottleneck where you then have to be the white knight that saves every deal. What's your thoughts on that?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. But why do managers do it? So come on, tell me, why do managers do that? We know why they do it. Tell me.
Well, they want to be superstars.
Of course they do. It's ego. Job. It's ego. Let me do this. And of course what they do is they come in and ride on the white horse and do a deal that the rep doesn't have mandate to do on money or commercial terms or everything else. And it completely deflates the rep. It kills their confidence. It's right. Damaging.
You're 100% right on. And, it's not their job either to do that.
No.
Right. So sometimes I'll do a very simple technique.
Please.
I have a pen and a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching this, and I say, okay, so we're going to do the plan now. And I give the paper and the pen to the individual. I don't do the plan. I don't write the stuff out.
I was expecting this big model. I expect you to start writing something.
Everything's simple.
Everything is like, here's a pen.
I'm a Canadian.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a Canadian. I keep things simple.
Well, the basics, the fundamentals, because the thing is, we're obsessed. Now, I'll share with you a little a gem that I was taught by my coach called complexity bias. Now, complexity bias is where your mental ego gravitates to complexity and doesn't celebrate simplicity. And you used another word which is called clarity. So basically, you cannot be clear when you've got lots of things going on, which is to your point of mastery. But that aside is people are suspicious of things that are simple. Very intelligent people have an affliction to this thing called complexity bias. Now, this is an affliction, and it's very apparent in really smart people like managers, because they go, it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple, Stephen. It has to be, and they have to add complexity and layers, and this is why things fail and things break. But, sir, what I want to talk to you about next is managers' ego. We touched on it. Come on, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's really start to get into it. You said you're up for this. Why is it that managers... I had one boss who used this word and it drove me mad, even though I was his top producer and made him millions of dollars, was I need to assert myself. I need to assert myself. And I was like, I wonder why you want to assert yourself. It's basically because I was winning all the deals and he was no longer the hero. And, and he just struggled with it. But for you, how do you help managers manage their ego? Because it's something you come across. You've been doing this for 25 years.
Well, I think you summarized it beautifully. So not that I'm taking, not going to take a shot at your question, but you guys watch baseball or hockey?
A little bit.
Hockey's not popular down there.
No, we're rugby. We're rugby mad here.
So, we're in the middle of hockey playoffs, and as a Canadian, this is like the goal, and it's nice outside, so it's like golden time. But first of all, the manager doesn't come on and shoot the puck to score the goals.
Correct.
Right. But in sales, because they were such a good rep, they know what they're doing, but that's not their job. And I think I may have mentioned that a few times in the book. It's not your job to do that. And the fact is, when you're doing the rep job, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
So you can be the super rep, Superman, but the fact is that's not your job any longer. You've moved into a different level where you're trying to help everybody win, and not by doing it for them, because you don't do them any justice doing it for them. And that's one of the things I call it rescuing.
Yeah.
Right. I talked a lot about rescuing, and I'm going to rescue this deal. And what you're saying is the rep's not good enough to do it, so I need to jump in because I'm so busy, but I'm going to jump in anyways because I can pat myself on the back. That's the ego thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to Tony is doing so well because I've coached him, because we've developed him to be better. Look at him. And so, if the manager is not doing their job, let's just say, and sometimes it's the system. The system is usually the issue. But if they're constantly going into rescue deals, and I talk about this in the book, right, that then they don't have time to do what they're supposed to do. And their job is not rescuing deals. It's teaching the reps. And sometimes you have to say, you handle this. This is not, you may coach. What do you think you should do? Come to me with good ideas and how you're going to solve this account, but I'm not stepping in to do it.
Yeah.
And managers don't want to say no. They think it's their job to rescue deals.
Agree,
Okay.
100%. I'm nodding furiously with you, Stephen. I think there's just a slight delay on the line here, which is why I sound like I'm interrupting you all the time. I want to talk to you about the system, the failure of the system. I want to try something on you, something I've spotted, particularly in rural, in the agricultural, the agribusiness or agri-tech sector that we work in.
Okay.
Often the owner, the founder says, yeah, but we still need, so they promote their best rep into a management position. We all know that that's a two-pronged sword, it's a two-edged sword. And then we'll get into that. And then they say, but we still want you to actively sell and you need some key accounts. Because, good.
Oh.
Now I got the reaction I wanted. Off you go.
Don't get me started here.
Come on, let's go.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Please.
Okay. I think it's funny because it's, so when I became, I used to manage our biggest account in Canada. It was a big drugstore chain. Mm-hmm. And, when I became head of the region, I kept it. When I became head of VP of sales and marketing, I kept it. Because I felt nobody could do as good a job as me. And then at one point, the buyer wasn't giving me the ads that I wanted or the space that I wanted. And she says, well, you know what, Stephen, can you bring your boss in? And my response was, I am the boss. Can you bring your boss in? That wasn't a very good relationship response. And shortly after that, I gave up the account because I realized I was the detrimental one to the account. And I gave it to somebody else, right? So that probably doesn't answer the question that you. First of all, I talk about the book is called Focused. How can you do both effectively? What happens is in that situation that you described, the manager defaults to being a seller. I don't care. Someone else asked me that same question, and not that I get mad or upset or passionate, but it just doesn't work. No. I think that was on LinkedIn. We had a discussion about that, and people said, "Well, can't the manager do both?" And hey, if you want to be suboptimal, yes, they can do both, but that's not the best way to drive things. And I think you talked about, this one's a specialist in this, that one's a specialist in that. The manager's job is not to sell.
Yeah. I totally agree. I'm so glad I asked you that question because I knew I was going to get the response that I wanted because I also give them that same advice. I say to the owners, the CEOs, the MDs, it's like, what do you want them to be really good at? And do you want them to create dependency and bottleneck and a lag factor, or do you want them to actually empower their team, stewardship, legacy, enablement, all those good things, and the team sell without the manager? Because the analogy we use all the time, like you with hockey, is like the rugby rep does not, the All Blacks coach is not a player coach. They do not run onto the game, score the try.
Right.
They do all the training before so the players can then make decisions on the pitch. Now, Stephen, next question.
So I apologize. Why did I not ask you about rugby? Because New Zealand is famous. They're famous for rugby.
It doesn't matter.
I feel like my research was not done well.
South Africa are kicking our ass at the moment, but that's a story for another day. Now, because they also have a very good coach, funny enough. So now, on the leadership pillar, Stephen, because I've got a few more questions for you. You say something quite controversial, which I think the listeners understand. No, yes, it is. And you said in the book, only 10 to 20% of sales managers are crushing it. The standard explanation is they were promoted as top reps without the leadership training, which we spoke about. And nothing has been done about it. So what are we failing to do with the other 80% that step up from top rep to manager? What's failing? Why is the system broken? I think maybe we could go there. Could we go there?
Yeah, of course. It's a very good question. So where are we failing? One is job definition. What is the job? So as the next level, they're rewarding the right things. If your manager, being the VP of sales, let's say, or the regional VP, is not asking you, how is it going with coaching with Stephen? But they're asking you instead, how's it going with the Acme deal? They're not doing a good job helping you understand what's important. And trust me, as much as we talk as consultants or as experts that coaching is key, most VPs don't. It's coaching the deal.
Yeah.
Right? So one, we're not helping them because we're rewarding the wrong things.
Yeah.
We're not rewarding what's critical. And then the message is, well, you got to be on top of your deals. So you sit at home, you analyze the deals, you look through MedPick or whatever they're called, MedPick, Winnipeg, I don't know what they're, right? You look through that, and then you look on your computer, and then you, as opposed to the most important thing you need to be doing, and I said it, but I didn't say it as clearly as I'm going to say it now, is I used to be out in the field, coaching.
Yeah.
You cannot coach from your desk.
I agree.
Cannot coach from. So if we're not asking our managers, let's say we're talking, and I say, okay, it's Monday today. How many days are you going to be out coaching this week? If I'm not asking you that question, I'm not sending you the right messages as to what's important. So one is messaging and what the system is and what's rewarded. Number two, you probably need to train people how to be better coaches. But if it's not reinforced, that's a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not the manager's fault, because the data shows, and this is data I've quoted. If you're out more often in the field, regardless of how good a coach you are, you get much more lift just by being there and showing them the love. And many managers say, "Oh, I've got older reps. They don't want me out with them." Right? I'm sure you've heard that one, right?
I've heard it. I've seen it a lot. I mean, a lot of my managers that I'm privileged to train, Stephen, are much younger than their team. Interesting dynamic, right? Because we have to coach them to develop.
But it's all the time. It's every sales force in the world has that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Because it's that classic thing like, I know our sector's different. No, everyone's got the same problems. It doesn't matter. It's pharmaceutical, FMCG,
yes,
SaaS, agriculture, agribusiness. They all think they're different. They're not. They're all the same. You know that, and I know that. But they think they're different. Let's move on to another question for you, Stephen. Is this whole concept of enforcement?
Yes, you promised me we were going to get there.
I call it commitment. You call it enforcement. It's a scary word. Break it down for people.
Especially enforcement. If you watch American news, you think it's ICE enforce.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not what I'm talking about. And also people think, when I mention that word, and it's to shake people up a little bit, they think it's micromanagement.
Yeah.
Right? That's one. Oh my God, they're going to be micromanaging me. It's not. Okay. Yeah. And what is it then? Right? That's the question. It's about holding standards. What is critical that we do? Well, if my managers weren't coaching 10 days a month, I'd have a discussion with them.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I hold the line on.
Yeah.
Okay, you were sick. Or I remember one manager said, "Stephen, I didn't make my days because, I didn't hire that rep because I had to make my coaching days for the month." I said, "Okay, but you do have to hire a rep, right?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I will count hiring days in your lot just because that's the right thing to do." Right? So I dropped the standard a little bit, but it's part of it holding standards. It's not micromanaging on everything. But what's critical, if you don't hold the line on it, generally, under pressure, there is no line. It immediately breaks. And so it's a few things that you want to hold your people to a standard. And if the reps, let's say, for example, writing up deals, there's a way to write up deals in your organization. And you think, okay, we'll just put that through as a manager. You're not holding the standards.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So it's not more complicated than that. It's not evil, but it's being clear that this is a standard, and this is what we're going to hold you accountable to. Because if we don't, then we run into problems. It's not everything you do. I don't want to watch everything you do. I don't have time for that.
No, I agree. I want to expand on that, Stephen. I've now caught my train of thought on the other question, which we'll come back
Okay,
to.
beautiful.
But before we go there, let's finish this enforcement thing because it's a very important topic which comes through the book loud and clear. You say you have the enforcement spine, okay, and it has 5 elements, and you have non-negotiables, inspection points, graduated response, closed loops, and peer visibility. So if a sales leader was listening to us today and they could only put one in place of that enforcement spine, which one would they put in place in your advice?
You know, it's built on 5. How can you put one in place?
I know. It's like saying, who's your favorite child? I know it's a really, really hard question, but
Okay. Well,
let me ask it, Stephen.
I keep this with me, to be honest with you, because
let me ask it.
every now and then somebody asks me about the enforcement spine. I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get caught on that one, but that's
okay.
one that sits with
So
me.
I'm not catching you.
No, I know that. It's a great question.
No,
and I want to be able to answer it.
Let me answer the question in a way that will help you answer it, if that's okay, if you're open to that.
Okay, go ahead.
If you could only choose one of those things that would give the team the biggest lift or leverage for the next quarter, which one would it be?
Well, I'll tell you, it's between 2. One is establishing, I call it cadence.
Yes, I love that word.
So weekly coaching, performance inspections, early intervention.
Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
The other is what I call non-negotiable standards. We just talked about that. Is what is not optional. Preparation for a call. Make sure you come with evidence and owning the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they all die if you don't actually review them.
Yes, exactly.
But so you're asking favorite children. I don't know how many children you have. I have 2, so they're both my favorites. One's my favorite boy. One's my favorite
I have
boy.
3, and my daughter's my favorite daughter because she's my only daughter. So that's good. Now, Stephen, time is on us, but I want to just ask. I've come back to the thing that I completely ballsed up on. We talked about in rural, and you said no. Actually, it happens in every sector. It happens in pharmaceutical in every sector. You often have a top rep that is younger and promoted because they're better and smart. How do they manage older reps? And particularly the old rep might be mates or buddies with the owner. You know, you've always, and they've been there, and Dave or Bill or Bob's been there for 25 years, and Stephen is now the new manager. How would you coach that new manager to coach someone much older than them, which is sometimes very overwhelming for them?
Yes, it is. And I call it, sometimes you have to start with the toughest nut to crack when you're coaching as a new manager. And, some of it's getting other people on board or getting this person on board to move the rest of the team. But here's the reality. It's a story that I'm going to botch, but it was a surgeon who's been top of his game for years. And he felt he was slipping a little bit. And he brought in one of his retired colleagues. You've heard this story?
Atul Gawande, I know the story. Yeah.
Okay, so you probably know it better than me. He brought in one of his colleagues to watch his technique. And it's not that he did anything bad, but there was little subtle things that the guy picked up on because of the power of observation. And that's one way to sell it to your top rep. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know much better than me. But isn't it great to have someone who can observe what you're doing and maybe provide some insights for you that you just don't see yourself because you're so used to doing things a certain way?
Yep. Now, I would just preface that, Stephen, if I may, is that older, more senior, mature rep, it's one of the biggest questions I ask when I coach teams or managers. The first question I ask the big bosses, men or women, I say, are they coachable? It's a very important question because your question you're asking is great, but it falls on flat ears if they're not coachable. Because if that top rep doesn't want to learn, they can be the real rock star. And in agriculture, we call this a red flag, is when they use this word, my customers. My customers. So, that's a bit of a red flag. So I think the premise on that is it's a beautiful question to ask, but they've got to be coachable, right? They've got to be coachable because we talked a lot about coaching. You're right. In this, but are your team and are your managers coachable? Because if that older rep isn't coachable, no amount of being a great coach as a new manager is going to turn the dial. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I guess the question becomes is, do they belong on your team?
Beautiful.
Is one question. No, I mean, you caught it for you caught it you handled that really nicely. So thank you. Uh, I guess at the end of the day, uh, and usually these people are the ones who are bringing in a good portion of the revenue.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to look at your coaching is a reward.
Yeah.
And if these people think they know it all, which I do believe observation. You can learn stuff from observation, even if you're at the top of your game. Tiger Woods doesn't say I'm going to crash another car. I mean, he doesn't say I'm perfect. It's always about working on improving. But some people, you're right. Some people think, I've been here for 25 years. I've seen 6 managers or 12 managers in the time. I'm going to outlast you as well. I've heard that.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? It's not, but I think you have to try as opposed to avoid.
Yes.
Because they've had good success with other managers saying, okay, I'm not going to coach Tony because he doesn't even want me here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I think that's the wrong way to go. But I guess if you determine that at some point they're not coachable, then so do I have time for a little story here?
Yeah, you have got plenty of time. Go for it.
Okay. So, in between leaving the corporate world, I did apply for one job. It was VP of sales for a generic company. They make generic drugs. And the owner used to be the VP of sales or the CEO, whatever. And he wanted to give it up and bring someone in. And he said, Stephen, you know what? You're an ideal candidate. I'd love to bring you in. And I asked one important question. If I decided to fire half the team, would you be okay with that?
Great question.
I never took the job because the answer was basically, we can't do that. I wasn't saying I'm going to do that. The question was, do I have autonomy to act?
Yeah. Great question. I love you had that courage.
And I think he must have just freaked out saying, who is this guy? But the bottom line is, if you don't have autonomy, it's very hard to be a leader, right? You have to give your leaders some autonomy.
Well said. I applaud you for having the confidence and the courage to ask a question because it's so important that you have that mandate and you have that autonomy to do it because naturally...
Otherwise it's hell.
Exactly. People are going to self-select. I always say to people, when we coach your people and we train them, they will reveal themselves to us. You can remember it's the Andrew Carnegie quote. It's like, I don't listen to what men say. I watch what they do. It's the walk versus the talk. It's their behavior that gives them away. Stephen, last couple of questions for you. You've coached loads of people for the last 25 plus years. I've got this question for you. Has the thing that you've had to enforce on yourself, we talked about enforcement, this concept of enforcement. Has the thing you've had to enforce on yourself changed over those 25 years? Like, what's the discipline you still find hard to hold yourself to?
Well, here's the area that I always find most frustrating. It's following up on people calling, leaving messages, and not getting responses. And I'm not alone because I have lots of friends who experience that. But I try to push myself through, even though I may be frustrated, and sometimes I maybe go over the line. But that's one area that I'm trying to get better at still. As to know when to just leave it or when I need to pursue it. And that answers the question, but that's probably one of the biggest challenges because I have a plan. I have a plan every day. With this book, to be honest, I've reorientated my business. So I think this is there's some really unique things in here that the companies can benefit from. And you can't be in two places at one time. So I've kind of shed some of the old skin and really trying to focus on, leadership discipline. Yeah.
So if I asked you this question, if I gave you a billboard on a highway, I think you call them highways in Canada.
Yes.
And you wanted every rural sales leader to drive past, what would it say?
That's a good question. What it might say, what it should say, is that as a manager, your job is to help your people get better. It's to develop your people. It's to not spend time on tasks that take you away from doing that. And the real key is people development. Make your people better, get your team to be better, and you will make more sales.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
That's a good question. Have to think about that over dinner.
No. I mean, because it's the billboard test, because billboards literally are 8 words or less, and then they fail. This book, Stephen, is, as we say in the agriculture word, bloody brilliant. It's a bloody good book. So that's well done, sir. If a sales leader read this book, and we're going to put all your resources in the show notes and link to the book and everything else, and could only act on one thing, you were only allowed your last dying breath on this earth would say, there's one thing I want you to do from reading this book. What's the one thing you hope they would do?
I know what it is.
Please.
What would it be for you?
I think it would be commit to coaching.
Okay, that wasn't. That's a good
That's
one.
not my answer. That's you're my guest.
I put you on the spot here.
What I say. It's not what important what I say.
For me, if they can take away from chapter 5, the 3 things.
Love it.
Anytime I started a new job, nobody trained me on this. It was, what are the 3 things we need to do to be successful, or I need to do, or the team needs to do. And to me, that's the starting point of building, because it creates focus. Yeah. And if you can do those 3 things well, and all the other stuff, hold yourself accountable to your team. But to me, the thinking every year when I have new clients, okay, let's talk about the 3 things you need to do this year to crush your numbers.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great takeaway. It's not rocket science, as I said, but it's focus.
Stephen, I've absolutely loved this chat. Well done for putting this book out to the world. This is such a good book.
Thank you for saying that.
I read a lot of books. I'm always trying to get better, and there's plenty that I have to work on. I'm certainly a work in progress. But I congratulate you on writing such a straightforward, clear, grounded, pragmatic book. Every sales leader, I mean this, every sales leader needs to read this book. This is a fantastic book, and it says everything that you've said in here. And I so appreciate you coming on the show. I know your time is incredibly valuable, and we're really looking forward to hopefully your 3rd book, the trilogy. Not Lord of the Rings.
Yes. I got to get the second. Second's pretty much in the bank. 3rd, maybe. But so first one is we've had some good success. We've had some great feedback on the book, to be honest with you. It takes a bit of time. I launched February 24th. We've had a number of really positive reviews. Remember I asked you when we talked about coming on, I said, are you going to read the book? Because for me, that makes such rich conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to respect. I think you have to respect your guests, Stephen. So you need to read the books.
Others, I've asked the question. They said, well, we skim through AI and so on and so forth. But the questions you asked me today and the richness, it's not a hard read, but the richness is actually taking the time to go through it. And I'm one of the worst readers in the world, but I've had to read my book a couple times. Right?
Oh, it's like pulling teeth. It's like going to the dentist saying we're putting out a book shortly, 3rd book for me, and not to the standard of yours. But I want to talk to you about this page 115. This is just to prove that I've read the book to you as well.
I want to read this.
I want to read this. Page 115.
Page 115
is focused execution, which is chapter 10. This is the paperback version, 115. Now I'm going to play a little game with you. I'm going to play a little game with you.
Yeah.
And I am going to... No, I'm not going to play a game. I'm just going to tell you, because it's so important that you said... I read this out to my Rural Sales Manager group that I train each and every Tuesday. I said... and you can see it. Here it is. It's highlighted.
Okay.
And I did. Coaching is not extra work. It is the work. And, to be honest, that's worth the whole book. It's worth the whole book.
Well, there you go. That's the job. It's developing your people.
That's the
And
job.
the best way to do it is to coach them. So just focused execution. That again is something I developed many years ago based on my principles.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to sell. We've done workshops with companies on what we call focused execution. And some people told me those are the best sessions that I have. I do very little in the session because the group does all the work. So I don't know what that means. But I thought, okay, I don't do a lot of work, but we have. Basically, I'll describe it because it can be done by if you have 3 managers, that's probably a minimum. But I bring everyone together in a room, all the leadership team, and we say, write down what you think are one of the critical things for success. The 3 things.
Yes.
And then we post everything up on a board and we cluster ideas. I think it's called clustering, a clustering session.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there could be 50 different things, and we then cluster them into ideas, and then we write down the ideas. And then, because there's usually 6, 7, or 8 that come out of it, we have people vote on their 1, 2, and 3, or
Love
3
it.
things that they think are the best.
Such a good exercise.
And those become the 3 things.
Love
And
it.
so the same approach that I take with coaching, strategy execution, we take the same approach. What are the 3 things you have to do? So again, it's not rocket science. And then we work on how. That's the what. And then we work on the how. And the how takes a long time. The how, depending on how
Well, that's
big
where the
group
rubber
is.
hits the road. I've been reading a
Yes.
beautiful book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. Forgot the author, but it's well known. And he said, like strategy is often mistaken for goals. And it's like, okay, well, that's the what, that's the goal. But everyone thinks the strategy is a goal. It actually comes down to the execution, and then your important word, which is enforcement. So, and that accountability loop that you might talk about. But I mean, your 3 things, it's such a simple framework for people to take away. So, Stephen, I'm thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for being so generous. Thanks for putting out just such a bloody good book. Where do people get hold of you, sir? How do they connect with you?
Okay. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I publish every day content, usually around discipline and execution and predictability of your forecasts. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Stephen Rosen. I have a website called starresults.com. You can find me there. And my book is available on Amazon. And I think there's other bookstores that have it, because when I Google it, I see a lot of places that I haven't gone to, but there's a company that distributes my book out all over the world. But Amazon, not that I want to make Bezos any richer, but it's a good point of contact to find my book. They ship all over the world. Where did you get it from?
I got it from Blackwell's, which is in the UK, because they have free delivery, and they come in a bundle. And I can't show you the mess that's on my desk here, but I've got books stacked up. I've got David Brock's book, Is Good Enough Good Enough? That's next door to me, and he'll be our guest coming on for a second time.
Oh, nice. I did Dave Brock. We discussed this, and our thoughts are very similar.
Such a good man, much like yourself, and it's just an absolute pleasure to talk to guys and girls like you, because I learn so much. I've always said, even if the listenership was a selfish listenership of one and me, then I thoroughly enjoy this conversation, Stephen. So thank you for giving us your time in Toronto, Stephen. What a pleasure to talk to you and learn from you, and I know very much we'll stay in touch. And thank you for coming on our small little show, but sharing all your wisdom.
Well, I'm sure we're going to own New Zealand, so I'm teasing you.
Good.
But thank you for all the nice things you've said about the book. I'm very proud of it. I tease Mike Weinberg that I'm a late bloomer, because I've known him for like 15 years. We met 15 years ago. And he had his books out, and I thought, I'm not going to write a book. I wrote one, which was an easygoing book. And then for some reason, I had my epiphany, and I thought, okay, I'm writing a book. Oh, I'm going to write 3 books. But anyways, we'll get there one step at a time.
And I like how you've written it from your own lived experience. And when you say late bloomer, let's just call you fine wine. Should we go with that?
Okay, you know what? That's fine. Late bloomer. I always look for the pity. Oh, look at him. He's
No, no, no.
whatever.
Let's
It's all
elevate
good.
that.
I'm
Let's
very.
frame that. Stephen, thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the show. We're big fans, big supporters. You'll see a lot of support and love for you in LinkedIn. And thank you for putting out such a beautiful book into the world.
Thank you so much for your time and reading the book and your generous comments.
Hey you, hope you enjoyed this episode and you learned lots from it. It takes a wee bit of work to get these wonderful, amazing guests who are leaders in their own field on our tiny little show, who share their knowledge with you freely and generously. So it makes a lot of sense for me to ask you a tiny favour in return, which is to rate, subscribe or share the podcast or grow this YouTube channel with your family, your friends or colleagues or anyone in your network that you think will benefit from listening or subscribing to it. The reason for my request is really simple. I'm on an absolute mission to elevate and improve the world's perception and therefore performance of rural sales reps and rural managers like yourself, which in turn helps every rural business owner or leader on the planet. I do that by doing my very best to share the most effective sales and marketing strategies with world-class leaders and thinkers so you can get the leads, respect and sales results you deserve. But I can only do that when you help me get this channel and our podcast out to a bigger, wider audience. And the bigger the audience, the better our guests are going to be. So if you can help us with that would be brilliant. Now, as you know, unlike other podcasts, we don't include any of those annoying ads that interrupt your listening experience. But I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't make sure that you grab a free copy of my How to Succeed in Rural Sales ebook, which would normally cost you $20 on Amazon. You get that for free as a subscriber or a podcast listener. Or you can find out more about our rural sales team training or rural sales manager training programs. You can do all of this at our resources page, which is below the video here, which is www.ruralsalessuccess.com, where you can click on and download copies of my other books here. I have another book out last year based on Ryan Halliday's brilliant book, The Daily Stoic, and it's called 365 Rules to Master Rural Sales Success. So mastering yourself, mastering rural sales, and mastering rural sales management is kind of a 3-in-1. So make sure you get that as well. And also in the notes below here, you have an access to my free new AI training tool called Field Coach IO, which can talk to you and train you 24/7, anywhere, anytime zone. No lag, no waiting. Get answers that you need right there and then for the deals that you're working on. It's got all my IP inside its knowledge base, which is extensive. 13 years of IP that you're never going to access from the likes of Chat or Claude or Gemini or Grok. And you can instantly get access at a touch of a button with no waiting. You can, it will coach you or train you on your specific live sales scenario you're facing, whether it's pricing or timing objections, existing supplier, high authority, farmers that have ghosted you on quotes, the specific questions you need to ask to make those conversations count. It will even analyze your sales calls for you to put you right where you might be going wrong, as well as map out your territories. It syncs to Google Maps and Google My Maps, and process your export leads from CRM to prioritize which leads you need to follow up with the highly hyper-specific, customized, relevant follow-up you need to get those deals, those dead deals revived in your CRM. So whatever you need, it's going to give you immediate specific answers, and you don't need to suffer or struggle whilst you wait for answers even from me. So immediate instant coaching right there and then, just when you need it. Or even talk to you in your truck as you're about in your territory, which is awesome, as long as you've got great internet coverage. So our members and Field Coach are absolutely loving what it's doing for me. So many more use cases I could bore you with sentences here, and my development team and me are adding new tools to it all the time. So you can take Field Coach for a spin, a 15-day test drive, and try it out, see it out for yourself for just $1. The link to Field Coach is in the notes below as well. So I personally want to thank you, my friend, my dear listener and subscriber, for sharing the show with others. Really appreciate that, because we can make a difference. It's hard. Rural sales is hard enough. Thank you for investing your time with me and my guests, because I know you're super busy. It's very busy and noisy out there. You've got many choices and options where you choose to spend and invest your very valuable, precious time. So hope it's been time well spent for you, and you've learned something from us and our guests, and it's helping you become a better rep or manager, or you as a human being. Appreciate it and appreciate you.